Aloha and welcome to Connection to the Cosmos with your host, me, Dr. Lisa Thompson, where I have out of this world conversations with extraordinary people. And today I'm really excited to have on Elies Hadi. We're going to bring her on in just a moment, but first a couple of announcements. So my Galactic Ascension Channel Certification Program is going to be held online February 22nd and 23rd. So if you are a healer of any sort and want to add on to your modalities, or if you're interested in getting into energy healing and hypnosis kind of work, this is an amazing training that you want to take advantage of. Also, I'm having my Galactic Retreat here on the Big Island of Hawaii, April 30th to May 4th. So there's still plenty of time to sign up for that, and I have payment plans available. If you have not had a chance to grab my free 20-minute meditative journey to meet your galactic family and guides, then make sure you grab that. Also on my website, and all of these are on my website at drlisajthompson.com and mysticmanta.com. And then finally, if you're coming to the Big Island of Hawaii, then come see me on one of my Big Island UFO tours, where you'll see the night sky in a whole new way using the advanced Generation 3 military night vision goggles. So without further ado, we're going to bring on Elies. Hello.
Hello.
So let me share.
Always the perfect moment.
Yeah. Okay, it's all good. I love the authenticity, right? So let me share your bio with our audience. And you're coming all the way to us from Indonesia. So excited to talk to you. Elies Hadi has been guiding lightworkers, healers, and starseeds in their awakening journey since 2016. She focuses on helping them to remember their calling, activate their gifts, and fulfilling their highest mission. She does this through light language, Akashic Clearing, 5D Biz Alchemy, and more. She's also the host of Starseed Goddess Podcast, where she talks about all things woo. She believes that the spiritual awakening and healing journey could be playful, yet powerful at the same time. Well, absolutely. And I love that that's one of your missions, is the play, because that is so important. So before we get into the main part of the conversation, because I'm so curious about how you got into your work, is your background. How did you grow up? Spiritual, religious, something else? So that we can understand how you got on this journey.
So thank you, Lisa, for having me on. And yeah, my spiritual background is pretty interesting. So my father didn't pray or anything. I wouldn't say he's atheist, but he doesn't care. Mm-hmm. And my mom, because I grew up as traditional Asian family, Indonesian Chinese. So there are a lot of Chinese tradition. I wouldn't even call it a religion. It seems to me more like a tradition that has been passed on, where we make offering, we make prayer, ceremony, ritual. And my mom is not crazy over that as well. It's just, new moon, full moon, that kind of stuff every month. And I went to a Catholic school though. And then I went to a Christian language center to learn English. So I learned about Mother Mary, I learned about Yeshua, I learned about Kuan Yin, I learned about what is like a mystery school, I guess, without knowing that I'm in one. And what I appreciate from my mom was actually, there was one time where I was learning Chinese in another temple again. And this is like another sect, if you may. And they are like trying to get me into it, right? Like get me to like their version of baptism, if you may. And I remember telling my mom, and my mom said like, no, like you are a child and you get to choose whatever religion should you desire to, but you are not at that stage to make the decision. I mean, I was like 8 years old or something like that. So she said like, no hurry, when you know it, but not because like they asked you to. So she said, go back and tell them no, and then we are not going there anymore. So like And that, I think as a child, you just kind of like, oh, mama said so. But I think there was something being activated there that helped me to understand that no, religion wasn't for me in that sense. And yeah, so that's kind of how I grew up. And eventually, a little bit later on in my life, my mom started to devote more to Kuan Yin, and then we had like a Kuan Yin statue until today. So in that sense, I probably kind of grew up with a little inclination towards Kuan Yin, although I wasn't a big fan, because to me it feels like a ritual, like, oh, we have to pray every new moon and full moon, but why?
Okay.
Because I remember asking why, but she's just like, oh, this is the way. I mean, what is the way? Like, as far as I'm concerned, like, Kuan Yin is in my heart. I mean, I'm happy to make the offering, don't get me wrong. It's just I don't think I need to do it for the sake of it. So yeah, that's kind of in a nutshell like my background before I started my new age journey, if you may.
Yeah. Well, so tell me about how you got on the new age journey then. And
so
did you have an original career first before doing this?
Oh yeah, I had the very traditional career.
Okay, what was that?
Yeah. So like, as I was sharing in my background, so I wasn't into like all the religion and whatever. So I always knew I was a free thinker, and I was into personal development since like I was 19, but that was more like, mindset and stuff. And I was in banking for 7 years until I had a breakdown and a burnout, and then I quit my job. And then I went on like 1 year gap where I was like searching myself, searching my soul. And that's kind of where I so-called officially, seriously, in a way, started my new age journey. Like, even before I quit, I already started meditating and going to workshop and things like that. But it's during that 1 year that I dive right into that, and then that's when I started to speak my light language, and then learn about angel healing and things like that, and started my business as life coaching before it evolved into more spiritual based. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. Well, so tell me more then about, when you're going through this kind of dark night of the soul and you're awakening to who you really are. When did you realize that you were this kind of starseed activator? And do you consider yourself a starseed yourself?
Oh yeah, I mean, it would be weird to activate someone, but I'm not a starseed, by the way, but you are. Yeah, so my starseed journey is a fascinating one because I've been surrounded by starseed like my whole life. And I always heard stories about people telling me they visit Orion, Lemuria, wherever they come from. And I couldn't really resonate, but I had like this long incubation period. I think now that I look back, it's like I'm being prepared so that I don't get a shock. Like, all the information are being given so that when the time comes, you're not gonna freak out and run away. So I had all this knowledge about starseed, even though I think I'm not one, because I think it's so weird, until that moment when I was in Bali, Indonesia. And I remember in one of the night where it was completely dark, in the silent day, and I wake up around like 4 a.m. in the middle of the night, and I felt this pull to look up at the sky again. And I did. And I saw this beautiful constellation. I don't even know what that is, but I felt this pulling home feeling. And immediately I felt like this gush of energy coming down, and a voice saying like, you are home and we have never left you. And immediately I knew I was a starseed. It's that deep knowingness, and I just smiled because I found it that it's right under my nose all this time, but I couldn't see it. And I remember that night to be somewhat emotional, but in a really like uplifting way. The cry are like tears of joy, tears of remembrance. So that's kind of like how I awakened to know that I'm a starseed.
Okay. Well, so did you ever discover which constellation it was or which group was really calling you home?
Yeah, the one that I physically saw, I don't think that is necessarily the one, but it was just whatever I could see from my visible eyes. But later on, kind of like my next phase of awakening journey is that I was channeling light language, and then halfway through, I felt like a new energy that I haven't felt before, and I knew it was like the Palladian, and I just kind of let it come true, and that's like my first encounter again without really making the dot yet. I just thought, like it's another guide that come true just with like any other guide, and then later on, I started to see a lot of like flashes of blue light and in my meditation, and then that figures of blue light started to crystallize and solidify into clearer and brighter light until it suddenly become a council of Palladian star mothers, and that's when I'm like, oh, okay, hi, I'm here. So I got it. I got the message, and I'm like, well done. This is how you do it. Make it as clear as possible. Like when I see a group like that, it's like, okay, no question, I'm out for it. So that's when I knew with certainty that Palladian is one of the stars that I come from. And also, I have a very strong connection with Lemurian, and it always comes, not always, most of the time it comes true during light language. So a lot of my remembrance journey with regards to the star, I felt was really uplifted and activated through light language, although that's not how I started with, but later on, once I realized I'm a starseed, a lot of it, were actually being revealed every time I channel. It's like every time I channel, like a new layer of information come through for me and for my clients, things like that. Yeah.
Okay. Well, so one thing that I want to touch on, because I'm here in Hawaii, you are in Indonesia, and what I understand is Lemuria was actually here in the Pacific, spanning from Easter Island to Hawaii, down through Indonesia, Micronesia to New Zealand. And that all of the native cultures of all of the Pacific countries, the Pacific Rim countries, and we'll add on Australia, Japan, Southeast Asian countries, they all have their origin stories coming from the Pleiades. And so I think that that's a beautiful connection. And I'm wondering if that resonates with you, if you being perhaps born in Indonesia and me being called to Hawaii, because I definitely have a Pleiadian connection as well, in addition to, many other groups. But I know that I was definitely called here to Hawaii, even though I wasn't born here. But I'm curious how that connection resonates with you.
Totally resonates, and I love how you make that connection. It felt to me like we are one end to the other end, but we are part of the same thing, which is totally the case, right? And I'm also not born in Indonesia. I'm born in Singapore, but then again, it's just 1 hour away from where I am. So, it's still that part of the energy. And I'm definitely called to Hawaii, but only recently. I was just telling my friend because I grew up in my hometown, Batam, and then I moved to Singapore, and then I moved to Bali, and now I'm back in my hometown. And I knew that my hometown is like a recharge point. Like I'm not gonna stay here for long, but I was like finding the next place for the past 2 years, but I couldn't. There is nothing that landed until Hawaii landed, and that was before I contacted you. But I think it was around that time that I was like, Hawaii is Hawaii. And I've never been there. I mean, I've been to the States, but not Hawaii, which is weird, right? But then I was like, it's Hawaii. And I knew like 100% is that same feeling I had right before I moved to Bali, but now it's Hawaii. And it's not a coincidence that I always go to the water place, and because I was logically saying I've stayed by the ocean, now I'm gonna move to the forest next. But then nope, I'm going to the ocean again. I'm like, the whales and dolphins are calling me, so I'm going there. Although we have whales here too, but I want the one in Hawaii. It's really funny. And yeah, I definitely resonate with you. And then when I contacted you, I didn't know you were in Hawaii. I knew you were in the States. But then when I knew you were in Hawaii and I was looking at like your photo in IG, and I'm like, confirmation, confirmation, confirmation. So yeah, totally resonate 100%.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, and I love Bali. I've been there twice. I just spent a couple of weeks there
Mm-hmm.
just a couple months ago. And so I think that the whole energy of these Pacific Islands really just has a higher vibrational feeling to it and allows for maybe even deeper contact with our star brothers and sisters.
Mm-hmm.
So I would love for you to share more about some of the messages that they share through you for you and your clients.
From specifically from
Well, I guess we were talking about the Pleiadians, so let's talk about from that realm.
mm-hmm. Let's see what they have today. Hmm. The message that keeps coming through within this period where we are recording right now, which is around Lionsgate portal, that I keep hearing again and again, is the same one I shared yesterday on another podcast, was actually around letting go of expectation, and specifically around the spiritual journey. And I think sometimes when it's almost like the more we know, we often forget this basic, like dying down the rabbit hole, right? Like, let's say you find out about the star and then you wanted to know which stars you come from, and then you start to read all about it, and then you just keep going down that rabbit hole with your mind, and then you forgot the very basic principle that you are here on a human body for a reason. And don't forget that you are still a human. So drink your water, do your exercise, sleep well. And that, it's basic, it's common sense. We learn that in school. We know you need to sleep well, you need to drink well, you need to eat well. But sometimes that often get neglected when we go on spiritual journey, which is weird. Or we go into too much obsession of it. Like, if it is not 100% organic, I'm not putting it in my mouth. I mean, like, yeah, if you have access to it, but if you don't have access to it because of where you come from, like me in my hometown, then what do you do? Like, do you not eat? Right? So that coming back to that principle of basic of being a human and taking care of the human body is the most spiritual work you can do, because the more grounded you are, the more you take care of this vessel, the more you can be the vehicle for ascension, for awakening, for support and grow. And then you can share your message with the world, whatever that is, and spread love and raise the vibration. And by being you, that's the most highest vibration that you can be, not by being someone else. And that's also like the other message that comes in together with that.
Okay, well, that's beautiful, and that actually it ties into a conversation I was having last night with my soul partner.
Mm-hmm.
Talking, yes, we're talking about taking care of this human costume that we're in, and again, for me, I know that I need to keep on that path so that I can be able to run more energy, because these higher dimensional beings, they take a lot of energy when they're channeling through us.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so your light language, so does that come through vocal light language, or yeah?
Yeah, I started with vocal, and then naturally the rest come through, like I draw them sometimes, and then I do hand sign. The hand sign kind of happen naturally when I channel anyway, and the drawing, they come sporadically. But for working with clients, I mainly focus more on the audio, but then I also teach them to use all the different types if that is their dominant style, because everyone do it differently.
Right. Yeah, because mine still primarily comes through my hands, although
Mm.
it's starting to open up through my voice, but still right now
Mhm.
it's through my hands. So, and it just like one day I woke up and I just started doing it. So it's very,
Yeah, it's cool, right? Yeah.
very, very interesting. Well, so what kinds of clients come to you? Like who would be attracted to what you have to offer?
So mostly are people who are uh, curious about the starseed work, or they know they are the starseed. So it depends on whether they are wanting to find out more or want to deepen their journey. And obviously, when they are curious about light language, because these are like the primary tool, and also the light workers in general. So they might not necessarily know what light language or starseed is, but they are on their awakening journey, wanting to deepen, as well as those who want to actually expand their work to the world and to like really share their offerings and gifts and increase their visibility, if you may, to actually bring their business into life or expand it so that they can reach more impact. So that's kind of like the light workers and the new earth leaders, as I call them. Those spiritual business owners are another group of people. So in the bigger umbrella, they are basically people on awakening and healing journey. And then, these are just like the more specific points where they come through.
Okay. So then I'm curious, when at what point in your business did you just you really were like, okay, I am helping to activate people, or I am really like I can help these star seeds specifically.
It's around the same moment that I realized I'm Starseed. So
Okay.
prior to that, I was doing life coaching. So it's kind of more like on the mindset with a little bit of spirituality. So I kind of shifted it to the other way, right? Like more spirituality and still some mindset depending on the person. And the Starseed awakening happened around the same time when my business was stuck. Like nothing was working, like no matter what I did, And it was a weird period, and I was in Bali, so I wasn't surprised. I guess like it was that like major rebirth period for me and my business. And the moment the Starseed awakening happened, the Starseed awakening cards came true, and like the downloads just kept happening. And I knew with certainty those information is not just for me to keep in my folder. So that's when I knew, okay, it's time to shift my business. And then I shifted from, at the time, angel healing to focusing more on like starseed work and then light language and then 5D business. And then here we are. It's like an evolution.
Yeah, beautiful. My journey's been very similar in terms of an evolution of it. But so in
Like let's hide in the closet until we need to come out. Otherwise, we are not coming
right, exactly. So in terms
out.
of the Akashic clearings that you do, can you tell us more about that?
So this is more relevant to when I'm working with others in the 5D business alchemy. For them, when they want to work on their business, a lot of them may actually realize that no matter what they do, it doesn't work. And like you can have the perfect message, perfect marketing, perfect strategy, everything is perfect by the book, like they follow every single formula in the business world, if any. I believe there is no rules, but they have
Yeah.
done that, all that, and it didn't work. And I was like, yeah, but if you are bringing all energy from the past that you didn't even know and you are even carrying, then you're just going to attract the same thing, right? And a lot of the times in our past life, although the past life is technically not
I know.
past life, if you know what I mean, but but just for
Well,
the purpose,
yeah.
yeah, but for the purpose of this, in another lifetime of yours, you have
Mhm.
made a decision to be poor for whatever reason you think it is a smart choice, right? That you are there to protect yourself. I mean, no judgment for that. You did what you could. Like you might have vow, like poverty vow, sacrifice vow, healer's vow, nun's vow, all of these things, and then you carry it with you across this lifetime, and then you wonder why nothing is ever working out. Well, that's because you're carrying all those things that are not even yours and you forget about them. So now let's clear them so you can call back your power. So it's kind of like clearing it and then also calling your soul back. Soul retrieval and Akashic clearing kind of go hand in hand. And so that's kind of like how I approach it. But another way that I really like to work with the Akash is to actually assess the gifts, because if we carry those trauma, we must carry a lot of gifts too. And so to actually also remember that, so that we don't get stuck. Like, yes, healing and clearing is super important, but we don't want to get stuck in that loop and like forever staying in that space. You know, the part of expansion is to move on and expand, and then we can come back and clear again, because it's not a linear process. You will find yourself coming back to clear because it's time, but then, you know, kind of like going through that process of expansion, of clearing and then expanding, and clearing and expanding.
Yeah, beautiful. It's like a onion, layers being back, or the spiral, where we think, oh, I cleared that, and then something deeper comes.
I know, right? Like, not you again. I thought we are true.
Yeah. Well, I would love. How has doing this work changed your life for yourself?
Wow, it's totally changed me. It's like almost every other day I feel like I don't know myself anymore, because, like, you know, we are constantly shifting timeline and becoming a different version, and even shifting reality. And it definitely has changed me in the way I feel about myself. It's interesting you asked this question. I just wrote a post about it last night, because I was saying that I noticed a lot of things that change in myself, or in my physical reality, so to speak. But the most significant one for me is how I feel about myself, because that is very important. Because if I feel shit about myself, I'm not gonna have anything to give to you.
Yeah.
And I become more and more acceptance of me and my work in a way that it's like, let's put it this way, I'm getting weirder, quote unquote, each day, because I'm getting more woo and woo each day, while staying grounded. But it's just like in the scale of my work and the way I convey a message. And but I'm totally okay with it. While in the past I'll be like, oh, you know, is it too weird, that will people understand it, and like, you know, will people get it? But now I'm like, nope, you know, if something comes through me, it's meant to be shared. And even if it doesn't even make perfect sense, and, you know, like as a channeler, you probably know sometimes the wording is a bit weird when you channel. And I'm like, we're just gonna put it through now, and we will edit it later when it makes more sense, like language wise. But definitely changed the way I feel. Like I feel way more whole, more complete, and more in my body. Like there is this energy of embodiment that is happening, more of, it is not just about seeing who I want to be, which is somewhere in the future, so to speak, but it's about embodying that in the moment. So that has been the biggest change, I guess, for me.
That's beautiful, and I totally resonate with that for myself. And I am curious, because of how you kind of grew up with your parents. How do they feel about all of this? Like, do they fully accept you and your business, or do they think it's weird? Or tell me more about that.
Well, my father passed away when I was in college, so he didn't get to see all this.
Yeah.
Now that you asked, I'm curious to know. I'm curious to know what he will say, because my father is very, he's a businessman. So he's a very typical businessman. If he's not making money, we're not doing it. But, you know, he is very ethical. He has strong moral, but it's not about passion. It's about money. Because they come from, like, both my parents come from very poor backgrounds. So that's why they have that. And my mom doesn't really understand the full scale of what I do, because I don't know how to explain it to her. Is in first of foremost, it's also like, it's weird, because I stay overseas for a long time. My primary language is actually English, but then I communicate with my mom in Chinese, and I don't know how to translate everything I'm doing in Chinese. So I don't know how to tell her what I'm doing. But I also think that she won't understand. But then I just tell her with simplicity is meditation, and she's okay. So until today, she doesn't know what I'm doing. She just know that I get on a call and I
Okay.
have this ring light in front of me, and as long as she's paying the bill and she's like looking okay and she's not falling sick, and I think she thinks okay, she's fine. But of course, when I first quit my job, she was worried, because then, oh, what are you gonna do with your life? You quit your job, like. And then I took a 1 year gap, so she was like panicking in that 1 year, and I think eventually she gave up somehow. I didn't know what happened, but I think it was just part of the thing, when we change, things outside of us have to eventually change. So
Right.
somehow along the line, suddenly she stopped asking and she's okay. And then,
Okay.
okay, then we are okay. Yeah, but for that 1 year, she was like, oh, but so when are you going back to work? Are you not ever going back to work? Things like that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so very interesting. So, tell me what else you want people to know about you or your business.
Mm-hmm. But there are a lot of things that I can talk about, but I just really want to share more, that something that is very close to my heart right now is the concept around 5D business, where I talk about, like we all talk about the new earth, and the earth is ascending, and so are you, but then our business is also ascending. Yet a lot of people are still caught up in the 3D way of doing business, where things are very logical and very masculine or patriarchy dominated, because that's how we were taught to. And we also carry a lot of trauma from the past marketing strategy that feel icky,
Yeah.
depending on your background, right? Like, I came from a strong personal development and marketing background, so I knew I've tried and tested all of those, cold DM strategy that totally feel icky. But I didn't know what I didn't know, and I did all of that, and it was just like, so I came to a point where I just feel icky about business in its entirety because of that. And it took me a while to do whatever I was sharing earlier, to clear away, the 3D metrics and all these old business traumas, and alchemize it into our greatest gifts, and to really learn how to actually run the business in a 5D way that is actually coming from the heart and the soul. And to, yeah, just to really remember that it's your business, so you get to choose whichever way you want it. Like, you don't have to post every day if you don't want to, and you don't have to be in a podcast if you don't want to, as long as it is aligned with you, that you're not using it as an excuse. So that is like the distinction you gotta make, but you have full freedom on what it is. So that's kind of like where I am, and what I'm like really, like, my next passion project, if you may, like next passion piece that I'm like
Yeah.
on fire on this month.
Okay. Well, that's perfect. And I love that, because like I've been a business owner for almost 22 years with 3 different businesses. And my first business was in the mortgage industry, and that is extremely male dominated, very like competitive, just, that old model, the 3D model.
Yep.
And then for 12 years, I had an interior design home staging business, which a little different, but still very kind of 3D based. And I had to, really be this alpha female, which I already naturally am. But, there were men who felt intimidated by me, which was funny.
Mm-hmm.
But then when I started the spiritual business 7 years ago, then I was meeting all of these other like female spiritual business owners. And I really started to understand the collaborative rather than the competitive kind of business model, where we are all here to help each other. We are all
Yeah.
here to boost each other, which is one of the reasons why I started my podcast, because I wanted to showcase people like you. Even though we might do similar work, it's like, I'm not everyone's cup of tea, and there's someone for everyone. And the more that we have people like us, lifting each other up and really working towards people understanding this fifth dimensional reality that we are all shifting, or not, well, most of us are shifting towards, then it becomes a more beautiful world. So,
Yeah.
yeah. So I love that you are focusing on that shift and helping light leaders understand that 5D biz as opposed to traditional 3D.
Totally. And I love what you say about collaboration because that's definitely another part of the 5D business. And often, even we do the exact same thing, just because we explain it a little bit differently, it will land on somebody's head a little bit differently. So yeah, it's really important to kind of showcase different angles in that sense. And I love that you mentioned light leaders. That is actually what I prefer to call them as well instead of light workers, because sometimes it felt like, oh, I gotta put in a lot of work when you are working just by being. So yeah, thanks for
Beautiful.
sharing that.
Yes. Well, and so I'm curious when you started your podcast and what inspired you to start it.
It was what was it? Okay, so my podcast was actually called Angels Transmission before it changes to Starseed Goddess. And all I knew back then is I had the word Angels Transmission given to me. I didn't know what it was. And then it was about 2 months, I think. Every day I was like, don't give me two words. I think you're missing the third word. Like angel transmission can be like a meditation, a podcast, a TV. Like it can be anything, right? Or it can be a book. I was like, I remember it was a funny moment. I was like, why are you guys so stingy? Like, give me more words. Anyway, so I just like put it like in my background, didn't force it into birth because I didn't know what it was. So it doesn't make sense to force it. And one fine day, I was listening to Abraham Hicks, and halfway through listening to Abraham Hicks, I received this entire download word per word about channeling and mediumship. And then I just go straight into my room and pick up my mic and start recording. And then that's how my first episode was born. And then right after I finished recording, I was like, Angel's Transmission, because that first one is called channeling, mediumship, and transmission. That's when
Okay.
I made the link. Oh, Angel's Transmission is a podcast, and the first episode was already recorded. Obviously, it wasn't the most professionally made because I just picked what I had and did it. But I knew that was how I will launch it. Otherwise, I'll be there and like trying to get everything perfect. And God knows, maybe we'll launch 2033. Anyway, so yeah, so that's how it was born. And then I started recording a bunch of things. And then not long after that, I had my Starseed Awakening. And even then, I didn't change my podcast name until it come to me, which is then Starseed Goddess come to me. Then I rebrand and change it. And then I started to embody more of that Starseed Goddess energy. And then everything just like makes sense looking back.
I love that. Well, and I'm looking forward to being on your show as well.
Yeah.
And I do as a starseed myself, and then I also over the years have really worked with different goddesses and their energies, and so I love that. And I think perhaps some of these goddesses were ETs or are ETs, higher dimensional ET beings, and so
Pretty sure.
yeah. Is there, besides Kuan Yin, is there a goddess that you really work with or call on, or that you resonate with that energy?
I work with different goddesses time to time. So for client, it kind of depends on what their guides are rather than mine. But for myself, is Kuan Yin and Tara, which is very similar, and then Mother Mary, and as well as Yeshua and Madeline, which I usually work as a pair. And then every now and then I work with Isis and Hathor, but I'm more drawn at this point to that, motherly energy. That's why I'm working more with like the Kuan Yin and the Tara and the Mother Mary and Yeshua. But it was interesting because Yeshua is always there. Like, it's like the one masculine figure that is always there. Even when I'm working with the goddesses, he's there. So it's okay if you want to be here. I'm happy. But it's just interesting to see that too. So
Okay, very interesting. So, Is there anything else, words of wisdom that you would like to share in our last little bit of time here?
Yeah, just love who you are and embrace who you are. And if you think you are woo woo, then embrace your woo and be even more woo woo than you are. Because that's part of the work that was literally just yesterday. My light language student was telling me that, oh my god, the best part of the course besides speaking light language is the part where we are working on embracing your inner woo woo. And I'm like, yeah, I knew that, because speaking light language is like the weirdest thing. I thought that was weird until I started speaking light language, and I was like, seriously, can I get more weird than this? I think I can, but at this point, this is like as weird as it gets. So yeah, embrace your quirkiness, embrace your weirdness. If although weird is normal for me, but yeah, so just embrace and love who you are, because as a starseed, you are likely to feel different anyway. But then let that difference be your gift rather than like something that you hate or shun away from.
Yeah, beautiful. Well, my first experience of light language was when I moved here to Hawaii. One of my very first friends, who's one of my closest friends, we were in some ceremony and she just, light language came out of her, which she had done before, and she does it with her clients. And that was the first time that I was like, oh, and I could feel the energy of it. And so, you don't necessarily understand the interpretation of what it means, but the energy is just incredible. And so, that was probably 3.5 years ago that I first heard it. And then it became like normal in my circle. I kept meeting all these different people that spoke light language and did, drew it or did it with their hands. And then I became doing it.
Yeah,
So
join the club.
Are you able to bring light language through like at will? Is there any message that would want to come through? And if not, that's totally fine. We didn't talk about that.
Oh, we can. You mean like channel light language right now?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
So before that, though, I just want to say, if you're driving, I would suggest you come back to this part of the recording later, because some people do feel lightheaded while listening to that, depending on the person. So treat this like a meditation. So don't be multitasking this. So just give yourself a nice, 3-5 minutes of self-love for yourself. So let's just close our eyes. Dropping deeper into the present moment, deeper into the here and now. Just taking one breath in, breathing in love, and sigh everything out. Relaxing your body, relaxing your mind, and opening your heart to allow yourself to receive. Opening your clairs to allow yourself the full experience. Opening your chakras to receive the rebalancing. Understanding that light language is felt from the heart, not understood from the mind. I feel called to work with the energy of Lemurian star mothers, as well as calling the element of water to bring us into that state of flow, of goddess energy, of the divine feminine healing. Open and receive. Hia nana kua nala hia salataya kaya nala hea taraya kua nala ia nakaya lana hea satala kua naya inaraya halataya enarahua lanaya ea nala kaya taya. Huanaya saya talataya rayahaya nalakaya. Elayawa, erayana lahaya, enalataya saya, kualanahia tayakaya lataya. Ealaya kuanaya, easaya kuanaya, iaraya kualaya. Inaraya ualaya ualaya iasaya ianaya kualaya. Uarala ianaya ealaya uanaya eataya kualaya. Isalata uanaya iataya uanaya ealaya uanaya. Iataya kualaya eana kualaya easa kualaya eana kuanaya. Itarayakah hilahtaya sah tanah. Kualanaya hianala eataya kualanaya saya taya kaya. Ialana tara kualana hianaya hianala saya ta. Iala uanala hia. Eanala huanala taya kaya naya. Eanaya huala taya kaya. Ia taya kaya nala saya la haya nala ia nala hiana. Hianala hianala hianala. Allowing the energy to settle in and integrate, knowing that this activation stays with you, and be open to what is being revealed to you in the course from now and for the next 1 to 2 weeks. Breathing in and out. And very slowly bring your awareness back into your body, into the here and now, into your breath. And whenever you are ready, you can open your eyes.
Wow, that was beautiful and powerful. Thank you so much.
You're
I can
welcome.
feel it up and down my body. So,
Yeah, I feel it too. I always feel it around my spine, which
yeah.
is really interesting.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Well, so how do people find you? Share your website and what socials you're on?
Yeah, so they can find me on my website, Instagram, and YouTube. They are all by my name, EliesHadi. So elieshadi.com, at Elies Hadi in IG and YouTube. And if you just go to any of this link in the IG, you can find my podcast link there. Or if you just Google Starseed Goddess Podcast, you should be able to find it.
Beautiful. Well, thank you so much for being on. And I mean, it was truly a pleasure to get to know you. And I look forward
Thank
to
you.
future stuff together.
Yeah. I
So,
already am looking at your website and I'm like, okay, when I go to Hawaii, I want to look at that UFO thingy.
yeah. Well, and I mean,
I
it's amazing.
didn't even know it is a thing. Like, I mean, obviously we don't have such an experience in Indonesia where people bring you to see UFO. So it was something that I didn't even know exists. I mean, I know UFO exists, but I didn't know such a tour exists. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
Well, and
yep, I'm up for it.
I started it 3 years ago, and we see stuff every time. Yeah.
Mhm.
So, well, thank you again for being here. And for those of you watching or listening, thank you so much. And I'll see you next time on Connection to the Cosmos. Aloha.
Thank you, Lisa. Bye.